Hello everyone, my name is Dario Forte and I'm the VP and GM of Security Automation and Orchestration at Sumo. And I'm very happy to be here today with you, ladies and gentlemen, at the Illuminate, with the purpose of sharing my experience in building and optimizing SOAR use cases. Just some few words about myself. I joined Sumo in May 2021 as a part of the acquisition of a company called DF Labs. I'm the DF of DF Labs actually, and I bring over 25 years of experience in security technologies, including but not limiting to SecOps, AI, and incident response. From a sort of scientific standpoint, I'm co-editor of several ISO SC27 standards and co-author of several US software patents. As you can see from the accent, I'm based out of Milano, Italy, and the team that built the SOAR, and which is globally part of Sumo now, is spread between Europe and Macedonia. And I'm very happy to be here because the purpose of the speech today is trying to make some clarity about the role of the security orchestration and automated response, what it is, what it's not, dealing a little bit with the so-called inventory of common objections, trying to make some clarification related to the apparent dichotomy zero versus near no coding in security automation, and then scaling up to the how to build and deploy SOAR use cases with a final closure about where the SOAR is going from a evolution perspective. A lot of topics on the table today, so we have to start very quickly. And of course, Illuminate is a Sumo Logic user and friends conference. So that's why, very briefly, I'm going to give a very quick introduction about the SOAR component of the Sumo Logic ecosystem. We define ourselves the most open SOAR platform because we have everything around is wrapped around a framework called the Open Integration Framework that basically allows virtually everybody to write their own integration, their own playbooks completely in autonomy without needing professional services and mandatory need of professional services from Sumo unless you actually need it. And the result is that we provide to the community with hundreds of connectors and thousands of actions based upon standard languages, the possibility of sharing integrations and playbooks, and most of all, giving the possibility to use the same automation engine for cyber and non-cyber use cases. This is something that for us is very important. It will be a sort of companion concept that I'm going to bring throughout the entire presentation today, because we strongly believe on the fact that having an open platform with an open and integrable architecture gives the possibility to have multiple ROI with a single investment in a very scalable way, and of course cloud-based. We also have the differentiator of daemons and triggers, the actions, the integrations, any type of connections internally or externally, monodirectionally or bidirectionally, can be dynamically activated by daemons and triggers. We integrate a lot of third parties. We continuously build third parties integrations within the SOAR, and we continuously open and discuss and have conversation with partners and end users in order to build granularly actionable integrations within the platform. Opinions in these presentations are basically mine, but part of those opinions are actually reflected in our strategy and also in our understanding of what for us is security orchestration, automated responses, or SOAR. And that's why we have these slides where I personally decided to write what it is and what it is not. Starting from the left column, I identified the 4 points that for me are definitely identifying what the SOAR is. First of all, SOAR is a facilitator of the last mile after the alert, meaning that the last mile after a particular security-related event is taken handed over by the SOAR creates the automated check, triage, enrichment, and response related to that particular alert or set of alert. You will see in the next few slides that for us security is just a part, just a portion of the last mile for Sumo. We built use cases that actually can also cover other non-cyber use cases. And the way we handle the last mile is absolutely dynamic and absolutely modular. The fact is that SOAR for us is a connective tissue between the security architectural layers of the customers and eventually the third parties and partners or whatever is connected in a monodirectional or a bidirectional way outside of the customer architecture. So that's why we think that the SOAR must be interpreted as a security hub that is able to connect in various ways the events, the activity of triage, response, enrichment, investigations internally and externally. And that's why you will see some clarification on the right side of the slide. SOAR should not be confused with the CM, nor is going to be a replacement for the CM. In Sumo, in fact, there are many levels of very tight integration between the CM and the SOAR, not the one replace the other. From a tangible standpoint, definitely the SOAR is a cost, a time saver for SecOps and especially for Sumo DevOps. So for us, automation goes beyond cyber use cases because it's a modular and open architecture that allows basically to integrate virtually with any third parties. And of course, last but not least, SOAR is a tool for security, staff retention, and augmentation. Why this? Because it facilitates the automation of tasks that otherwise could be or should be managed by the L1 or the L2 in the SOC or similar people in other security department, tasks that instead will be handled manually. With SOAR, instead, there is a layer of automation that can actually reduce the routinary tasks and contribute to the retention of these type of specialists. Our experience confirms the fact that usually in SOC, especially the level 2 and the level 3 people are people that needs continuous mental involvement in solving cases, in analyzing incidents. And the more they are involved in low-profile routinary tasks, the less they become interested in the daily work they do. That is actually negatively reflecting in the retention rate and augmenting the attrition rate, so these people leave. And the SOAR, the automation in general, allows them to be focused only on the really important tasks. What is actually the SOAR is bringing on the right side of the slide, which is related to what the SOAR is not actually. We said that it's not a CM replacement. We said that it is not an install and forget object. So it's not something that can be installed and left without any type of attention. Instead, it is a sort of living companion, co-pilot for SOC people and DevOps. And it is not a complex set of overlapped scripts. It used to be in the previous generation a hub of scripts and or object that needed a strong and continuous coding capability from the people that were supposed to handle it. Now, with the current and next generation of SOAR, for example, in Sumo, this scripting language knowledge is not required anymore. And most of all, it is not a human being replacement technology. It has never been a human replacement technology. It is just a facilitator and an augmentator of the current SecOps and DevOps capabilities. We usually say internally that SOAR must be interpreted as something that makes humans superhumans, but not something that makes humans replaceable. And from a scientifically standpoint, it is at the moment we cannot say that SOAR can be scientifically defined as a self-thinking and self-decision making technology. For now, it is something that people are building, including ourselves, but scientifically we are a little bit far from the state of the art that we foresee will happen soon, but is not stably there yet. From a graphical representation, just a few seconds to show you where the SOAR takes over. It takes over where detection starts. So it basically taking and refining and enrich the alerts that in this particular case comes from the CM, but it may actually come also from other third parties. And it is actually taking care of those alerts and corroborate, check, double check, triage, enrich, and then eventually respond to the related incidents. Cannot be absolutely considered as a replacement for the CM. In fact, as you can see in this particular slide, there is a complementary role between CM and SOAR, where the CM makes central data aggregation and storage, start with the initial investigative workflow and automated insights, detect and identify threats using correlation and rules, and of course perform a series of analytics, audit, compliance, and threat hunting activity, where at their end are handed over to SOAR that start a series of automated and semi-automated tasks that evolve those alerts to the next level. And this is a concept that at Sumo we are really focused on deploying and continuously refine. There is a symbiosis between the CM and the SOAR. There is a bidirectional consolidated communication and integration between the two. But at the same time, SOAR can be also purchased in cloud but standalone. For example, where the Sumo CM is not part of the customer ecosystem yet, but a SOAR may be necessary, and of course that it's a normal evolution of the consequential acquisition of the tool. There are common objections from people that still don't believe SOAR is useful. I'm putting these slides in front of you, colleagues, because I strongly believe in the fact that transmitting our experience in dealing with customers and prospects and partners, and also with the scientific community, can also help you to build the use case and the business case to invest in SOAR or not. So in this particular slide, you see basically a small recap of what is usually happening during the SOAR project assessment phase. On the left side, you see the common objection that we receive. The first one is very common and repeated. SOAR is for nerds only. Allow me to joke with slang a little bit. And I want to say, and I want to seriously underline the fact that it is true that it used to be. But now it is a non-issue, at least for us, because especially after the acquisition of DF Labs, at Sumo, we focused our attention on the user experience. For us, the attention to the UX, the flow, the interaction between the user and the tool and the platform in general is being taken care in a very, very focused way. And for us, we can admit in the past that SOAR was a bit of a complex kind of thing, but now it is absolutely accessible also for people that are currently not super savvy nor super sophisticated in terms of their capability. So it is true that now the UX is, the experience in general became absolutely more helpful, more friendly to the user, but it's also true the fact that SOAR must be intended as a very broad set of technical capabilities. So when you hear objections such as, I can build automation based upon my, for example, Azure capabilities, and I don't need to spend SOAR money, we respectfully disagree with this approach, because we think that it is true that expanding limited CM capabilities can help in the short term in automating very, very basic use cases. But it's also true, and it is confirmed by our experience, that this approach could be negatively appear as a closed, self-referential approach with a very limited number of use cases applicable. Usually building instead of buying, especially in this historical period, showed several points of failures. So, but most of all, having a open SOAR can give the possibility to spend once and cover a series of multiple use cases and then have multiple ROI. The ROI is measurable. We built a ROI calculator for SOAR, very powerful, very granular, that eventually we will be happy to share with you in case of interest. So we think that the balance between the cost and the capability ratio absolutely put the decision of building instead of buying out of the table. And again, SOAR used to require too many scripting knowledge, but now that is only if you choose a past generation SOAR. Things changed. The way that you can build integrations and playbooks at the moment is absolutely easier than before. That doesn't mean that SOAR is now no code kind of tool. It is actually something that can go in that direction. The no-code SOAR doesn't exist yet in the way that the real-time intrusion detection system did not exist at that time. Our approach, the approach that we prefer is, we call it near no-code, where basically the coding capabilities are absolutely little compared with the past. So now it's becoming very easy to build playbooks, automated actions and integration, but we respectfully discourage customers to believe in bold marketing affirmation, whereas the SOAR are 100% no coding. In fact, there are a series of topics that should be taken under consideration. I don't want to go too technical in this presentation today, but I will be happy to share the slides to you, dear colleagues. And I want to underline the fact that the so-called no code is, allow me to say, sexy from a marketing and positioning standpoint, but for use cases that usually require a sort of a little customization, a little bit of adjustment in integrations and in action execution, the no-code approach is not possible. So we prefer to go with the near no-code approach because we believe it does scale. It guarantees full customization. The DevOps have it under control, and the DevOps like to have it under control. It is transparent to end users, and of course, it is definitely something that is powerful and in terms of use cases that can be built. Those information that I'm discussing with you today are definitely important, my opinion, are definitely important to you in order to understand the scenario that needs to be prepared when a SOAR project is being discussed. From a practical standpoint, let's go a little bit more in details how we can make sure that we can build the right SOAR use cases. I share in this slide with you a series of pillars and points that you should have in front of you where mapping your standard operating procedures into SOAR playbooks. And you don't need to build complex stuff at the beginning. You can start easily, you can start little, and then you can scale in a proportional way as much as your security orchestration and automated response tool give you the possibility to have an open architecture. So you can see that you have several points that you can map between a playbook and action that you can build and or you have in your standard operating procedure. And you can start from the latter and then translate those SOP steps into a playbook, which is a superset of actions that can be visually built. And again, if you are able to map those SOP, standard operating procedures, into the SOAR playbooks, in our case there are hundreds of playbooks that are already pre-built and available in the community, you are actually able to build not only cyber playbooks, but also non-cyber playbooks. We have example that basically we built for customers as a very, very basic phishing and other very basic use cases into very complex multi-layer playbooks, for example, for telco that asked us to build stuff for DDoS, for example, or for banks that are using SOAR to monitor credit card and transactional fraud from a single engine. So you look at the mapping between the SOP and the various tasks in a way that those are going to contribute to create a single engine that can definitely, if we want to use a car automotive similarity, are basically able to fit into different engines. Once you have identified the step of your standard operating procedures, you can then build and deploy your use cases. I shared with you in this slide the 5 points that for me are important when building SOAR project. In Sumo, we make customers able to do it by themselves, or we offer our professional services to build it. And our customer base, it's really scaled. We have medium-sized companies or very big enterprises, very sophisticated in some cases, that are using Sumo Cloud SOAR to build that. But interesting thing is that there are also MSSPs that are building playbooks that can be replicated for customers that may not be able to do automation by themselves, but they are taken care by the MSSP for the same. Just to give you some numbers for Sumo, we have today 300 plus integration available with weekly updates and release. We have as part today 312 playbook in the library, and we have a piece of a community that is called App Central, where customers can upload, download, share, and modify use cases, playbooks, and integrations in a very granular way. Where the SOAR is going? It is an historical period where you colleagues are assisting to marketing keywords that, from my standpoint, I am in this field from several years, from my standpoint, are interesting, are potentially visionary, but are far from being stable at the moment. That doesn't mean that they don't work. That means that you should consider to get there progressively. This is why we believe in the progressive automation paradigm. There is the concept of the autonomic or autonomous security operations center, which is cool. We like it. We are building it. We are testing it with these 3 components, which are usually data analytics and crowdsourcing of data. We have a privileged observatory at Sumo because we also have the SIEM data, and we built this autonomous approach in a bidirectional way with the SIEM. It is already working very well at SIEM level, and at the moment we believe that customers are ready to take advantage of what we call recommendation engine. We prefer to not leave everything in the hands of the machine at the moment. Thought we will be already able to do that, but we strongly believe that recommending actions and playbooks dynamically is historically, and because of the historical period, probably the best approach. We know, however, that in the next 24 months, we will see a sort of dual track convergence where we will have a CM SOAR very almost fully autonomous kind of platform, but at the same time, there will be the possibility to go there progressively, for example, taking a piece first and then moving on a broader platform later. We think that the journey for SOC and SecOps and DevOps, at least from Sumo and for SOAR in this particular kind of approach, is progressive. Technically, we are ready. Should the customer, or that for us is a partner, actually is sophisticated, we can already go there. But at the same time, we prefer to have a broader and more progressive and accompanied approach in order to get the full autonomy of the SOC in this particular case. So how we can be successful in a SOAR project? First of all, again, the good news is that SOAR is easy, or at least is much less complicated than before. At Sumo, we focus on a modular and a platformized approach for security automation, where we strongly believe that the planning of the playbooks versus the SOPs is the first step. The good news is that you can really start narrow focused, and then you can evolve, enlarge without spending time to get the first results. The focus must be definitely choosing an open architecture. Open architecture means a virtually unlimited number of use cases, which Sumo built for you, or eventually you can build and share with the community, because for us, the community approach is one of the major foundations of a successful project. And that's why we think that all those elements together can be creating a focus on user experience and replicability, whereas user experience is the ability of metabolize, digest the automation and enlarging progressively the adoption of the automation itself, but at the same time, the replicability is the capability of reuse the same playbook, the same integration with some little customization at many different use cases, at many different levels for different kind of customers and of course SOC dimensions. And we strongly believe that the translation of this concept is one word: scalability. And this is where at Sumo we are working very hard, guaranteeing scalability and growth and value to our customers. I think that now we may be able to get some questions. I strongly invite you to connect with me in LinkedIn. I tried to stay a little bit high level in order to allow all the colleagues to understand and metabolize and digest the basic concept. But I'm personally an open networker. All my colleagues and my co-workers and my team will be more than happy to have a conversation with you and go technically in depth, and why not during a demo session. Thank you very much. It's a pleasure for me to be here.